Komodo dragon is also called the Komodo monitor. It's not surprising. After all, it's dangerous, strong, and dreadful just as a mythical igniferous beast. How dangerous is the Komodo dragon? What's it capable of? You'll learn from this episode about a real dragon without wings. The Komodo dragon is named after the island of Komodo in Indonesia. This is where these creatures mainly live. They can also be seen on some other Indonesian islands. In its habitat, this is one of the largest animals in principle. Only giant pythons and saltwater crocodiles can be larger. And in terms of lizards, the Komodo dragon has no rivals at all, neither in Indonesia nor anywhere else. This is the largest of the currently existing lizards. Individual Komodo dragons can exceed 13 feet in length, with a weight of 285 pounds or more. Of course, most individuals are smaller, but just think of what lizards are usually like and compare them to this overgrown giant. You can't believe that the Komodo dragon is actually real. It looks like a prehistoric animal that lived in the time of the dinosaurs. It's also surprising that the Komodo dragon is not an example of island gigantism. Animals become abnormally large on isolated islands. In general, this case is unique. There are times when large size does not make an animal particularly dangerous, but that's clearly not the case. An armored lizard makes excellent use of their size, and being a predator, it crushes all its rivals without much difficulty. It has very powerful limbs and no less powerful tail. With a blow of its armored tail, this lizard is able to break the limbs of its opponent, knock him out, or even finish him off. The teeth of the dragon are impressive. They're serrated, and in this respect resemble the teeth of predatory dinosaurs. I tell you that they seem to be from the same era, but in fact, Komodo dragons appear about 4 million years ago when dinosaurs were well past. The bite force of this giant is very impressive, as is the fact that its bite is toxic. Its mouth contains poison glands, so the reptile not only hurts the opponent physically, but it also significantly weakens him with the help of the toxin. The victim's body begins to undergo inflammatory processes, he becomes weaker, and the dragon calmly kills him and eats him. In this way, it kills large creatures. But we talk about this a little later. For now, I'll only say that the giant eats a lot. It can eat up to 70% of its weight at a time. For comparison, it's the same if a person weighing 175 pounds ate in one approach lunch weighing 140 pounds. It's impressive, isn't it? Another thing worth noting is the monster's claws. Strong paws are studded with long and curved sharp claws, which play the role of auxiliary weapons in battles. Also, claws of Komodo dragons dig their burrows where they hide. The Komodo dragon can live up to 20 years and even more, and for a good part of its life, it'll plague rivals in its habitat. Or to be more precise, it will nightmare its victims and prey. After all, the Komodo dragon is a top predator, so it has no rivals. As I said in the beginning, huge pythons can oppose the most dangerous crested crocodiles and basically everything. Komodo dragons can also give a decent fight to some large animals, boars and buffaloes, for example. In general, these are the first victims of the Komodo dragon. Here's one of our favorites. Even though they're quite large, it doesn't bother the dragon at all. It can handle an animal larger than itself. In this case, it's the poison glands that come into play. Komodo dragons, of course, are very strong and large. However, it still cannot eat a whole adult buffalo, or at least defeat it with a blow, but that's okay. The Komodo dragon usually bites the victim's legs, trying to gnash the tendons. Over time, the buffalo or wild boar will weaken. The loss of blood and the toxicity of the glands of the dragon will play a role, and the predator will begin to eat them. The venom of the Komodo dragon is a very insidious thing. The toxin causes paralysis of the victim's muscles and hypothermia. It worsens blood clotting, and it lowers blood pressure. This leads to shock and loss of consciousness of the victim. But this is only possible if a significant amount of poison enters the wound. However, even with a small amount of toxin in the blood, the victim will feel sick. Combined with blood loss from the wound, this will reduce its chance of rescue to 0. The Komodo dragon does not even have to be near the victim all the time. For example, it can bite a buffalo, wild boar, or horse by the leg or torso and just crawl away. It realizes that the bite went just right and that the victim doesn't have long to live. This living dragon has a very keen sense of smell, so it may leave for a while to do other things and then find a dying victim by scent, then proceed to eat. Dragons can smell food at a distance of almost 6 miles. Just think about it. It's aided by a long, bifurcated tongue that resembles that of a snake. And although the Komodo dragon loves buffalo, wild boars, and horses, it does not always want to spend a lot of effort and time hunting such large creatures. And there's not always a buffalo on hand. If the dragon doesn't really want to get into hunting, it can try its hand at goats and deer. It also hunts them very often. It's much easier to bite and defeat these animals than the same thick-skinned buffalo. On the other hand, they're more agile. In this case, a chase can often occur, but the dragon has another advantage that I have not yet told you about. It runs very fast. The reptile accelerates up to 12.5 miles per hour. It makes sharp lunges, and the animal finds it easily enough to change the trajectory of the run. Therefore, if necessary, the dragon will freely chase a deer or a goat, catch up with them, and neutralize them, all in the same way with the help of a signature bite. Although I'm a bit hasty with the word signature. It's the swallowing prey in whole that we can call so. Well, what do you want? Such a creepy monster must have in its arsenal such a trick that sends shivers down your spine. When there are no large buffaloes, boars and horses, or medium-sized deer and goats nearby, the dragon can eat smaller animals, for example, the cubs of these same animals. In this case, it no longer has to poison the opponent and wait until it weakens. The dragon can quickly neutralize the conditional buffalo calf and swallow it in whole. The same applies to monkeys, which are numerous in the range of the Komodo dragon. Although the monkeys are agile, they can still get into the jaws of the Komodo predator, and they'll never get out of it. Komodo dragons swallow monkeys whole, alive, and very quickly. And in general, Komodo dragons will eat almost anything. Any food will do. They can eat insects, fish, birds, rodents, pets, and so on. They even eat bats and small sharks. They're not squeamish about carrion either, but this is a rare occurrence. It happens during hard times, and so it's better for a dragon to find someone alive and turn it into fresh prey. Reptiles have it too. As I said, huge pythons can still resist the dragon, or it itself will not climb on them. After all, the animal is not stupid and realizes that the giant snake can cause him a lot of trouble. Although, if necessary, it can deal with a fat python, and smaller snakes are nothing to him at all. The dragon swallows them in no time at all, even without effort. What's there? Komodo dragons can enter into battle even with a poisonous cobra and come out of it victorious. Another reptile that the dragon fears is the tortoise. The Komodo dragon occasionally eats sea turtles that come ashore. However, the hunt is not always successful. After all, turtles have a very strong shell that sometimes cannot bite even crocodiles, let alone the dragon with less strong jaws. And although the dragon still has a good biting force, it may not be enough, and the turtle can be saved. Well, and completely frozen and confident Komodo dragons can try to test themselves even in a fight with a crocodile. However, in this case, the choice usually falls on small individuals and baby crocodiles. Still, no matter how creepy and strong a dragon is, it's very unlikely that it'll be able to overcome an adult saltwater crocodile that surpasses it in size, biting force, and skin strength. But such battles are said to occur on occasion. If you simplify everything I've told you about the prey of the Komodo dragon, you can say this: everyone's afraid of it. This is logical, considering that it hunts almost every living creature in its region. Moreover, Komodo dragons are afraid of their brethren themselves, and they've taken it to an absurd level.
What the fuck?
Even small individuals are afraid of Komodo dragons, and even cubs are afraid of their parents. It's really true. When Komodo dragons hatch from eggs, they run not to the mother, but away from her, and they do this as soon as possible. These monsters have no control at all, and they can even eat their own newborn cubs. To prevent this from happening, baby Komodo dragons climb into neighboring trees after births, where they spend the next couple of years. There, they'll be out of reach of adults and can avoid potentially dangerous encounters. This is probably why Komodo dragons are so creepy and cruel. Imagine what it's like to hide from their own mother from birth. No wonder they take their anger out on everyone as adults, including their own kind. In general, these creatures are loners. They hunt solo, but occasionally there are cases that Komodo dragons unite to defeat some victim. Still, this is the exception rather than the rule. These two monsters are more likely to fight with each other, and the finale of this confrontation will be the eating of a colleague. Yes, these lizards are cannibalistic. They go through periods where they can't find food. This is surprising given that these lizards eat literally all in a row. But still, sometimes it happens, and then the Komodo dragon will lay its eyes on its kin to eat him. And this does not happen so rarely. According to scientists, about 10% of the total diet of the Komodo dragon are its relatives. Those are usually young and small individuals. In some cases, two large dragons may meet, but their clashes are usually over other food. For example, they may fight on the grounds of sharing buffalo. The one who wins not only gets the buffalo, but it can also eat the losing congener for a snack. And of course, fights between males occur for females, as in literally all animals on the planet, especially large ones. Ritual fights in the mating season resemble wrestling. One male tries to embrace the other, fell him, and keeps him on the ground while scratching with claws. After that, the loser's removed. And in some cases, if the fight was particularly fierce, the loser may be killed. The lethal outcome often ends in confrontations between young or, on the contrary, old dragons with experienced males in the prime of life. By the way, an interesting fact, Komodo dragons breed classically with the female laying eggs. But in some cases, you can do without a male. Sexless reproduction is also inherent in Komodo dragons. It's parthenogenesis. The female lays a viable clutch of unfertilized eggs, with all the cubs being male. The evolutionary peculiarity is due to the isolated habitat of Komodo dragons. As you remember, they live on islands. But if, as a result of storm or other cataclysm, the males are accidentally thrown to other islands, the females left alone will be able to continue the family and establish a new colony, at least partially. Still, females always prefer sexual reproduction if the opportunity arises. But let's get back to our main subject, the danger of the Komodo dragon and its frightening abilities. This huge lizard has incredible strength, impressive size, is characterized by aggression and cruelty, dominates its habitat, and is dangerous in general for everyone, including humans. Yes, Komodo dragons are not as reckless and aggressive as, for example, the same crocodiles. However, they can attack a person. Cases of attacks have happened before and are still happening, including fatalities. It should not be forgotten that Komodo dragons live on inhabited islands. People live with them. Komodo and other islands with these dragons are far from megacities. Settlements are represented mainly by modest fishing villages without much protection. And the neighborhood with the wildlife here is maximum. Hunting for Komodo dragons is forbidden by law. Feeding them is also not allowed for locals. So the dragons feel impunity and safety and come close to settlements where they attack not only livestock but also people. This is especially true in times of famine. Moreover, these creepy monsters sometimes organize something really awful. They plunder graves and eat the remains of the dead. For this reason, locals try to cover the graves of their loved ones with dense cement slabs. Also, Komodo dragons are excellent blood sniffers. Today, you've already learned that they can walk about 6 miles on the trail of prey that was wounded before by themselves or by someone else. This also applies to humans. Komodo dragons are even cooler than the notorious sharks. They can smell even the faintest whiff of blood. Only if sharks smell it at a distance of a mile or even less, the Komodo monster can smell blood at a distance of more than 3 miles. So any tourist who wanders around the Indonesian islands with open cuts and scratches, in theory, is a potential prey of the Komodo dragon. And not only in theory, there have been cases when these creepy creatures attacked injured tourists. But you shouldn't be too worried either. This usually happens in the wilderness or in violation of safety rules by a person. And so, Indonesia is full of special zones with Komodo dragons. After all, this is the main animal of the country and its symbol. Many people especially come here to look at dragons, and if you do it in special zones and reserves, nothing terrible is likely to happen. They're fed regularly, they're well-fed and happy, and tourists are accompanied by gamekeepers armed for defense against attacks of these giants. If you behave normally and you do not provoke a dragon in such an area, it will not attack. In fact, humans are the only real enemy of the Komodo dragon. At the moment, the species is considered endangered, and this is largely due to tourism, settlement, and occupation of territories inhabited by humans, as well as the extermination of their prey. Poachers should not be forgotten. Although there is a law prohibiting the hunting of Komodo dragons, this doesn't stop people who periodically shoot reptiles. Poachers also hunt large prey of dragons, causing them to become malnourished, weak, and die. It's estimated that there are now only a few thousand individuals left in the wild, and the trend is worsening. It's quite possible that in a few decades, the largest and creepiest lizard on the planet will be extinct. And while it poses a danger to many, it still wouldn't want to see that outcome. Animals with proof armors. Creatures that are immune to venom, birds, and even insects. Next, I'll show you animals that snakes are afraid of and those who can finish them off. Let's start with this armored beast. The first thought you might have in your mind is, that's an armadillo. Well, it does look like an armadillo, but it's not. It's a pangolin, an animal from Africa and Southeast Asia. Snakes are not afraid of them. For them, it's more likely a very uncomfortable opponent. Pangolins themselves are not dangerous. They feed only on ants and termites. However, snakes can attack the pangolins themselves. Anyway, it's unlikely they'll achieve guaranteed success. In case of danger, pangolins curl up in a ball and fully protect all important organs and body parts with their scales. It's extremely difficult to break through such a ball. Only a big strong man like a tiger or a leopard can unclench a pangolin. And that, in this case, the pangolin can emit a stinking liquid as a second level of defense and drive away the predator. As for armadillos, they eat not only ants and termites like pangolins, but even small snakes, so the crawlers are really scared of these guys. In addition, armadillos also skillfully curl up into a ball. That's why no snake will be able to defeat the animal so easily. It's good both at attacking and defending itself. Still, we cannot say that all snakes are afraid of these cunning creatures. As I've told, they're more of an inconvenience to snakes. What all snakes really fear is the mongoose. Wherever mongooses live, snakes have a tough time. The mongoose is the main enemy of snakes. His vocation in life is to fight against the crawlers of all kinds. Doesn't matter whether the snake is venomous or not, except that mongooses do not attack huge snakes like pythons. The giants are no match for them because the mongoose isn't a large animal. Anyway, in case of fighting snakes, this works in its favor. The nimble mongoose is characterized by phenomenal agility and reaction. Even super fast snakes like black mambas don't always have time to attack it with their poisonous teeth. The mongoose's tactics are simple. The small predator stalks the snake and challenges it to a fair fight. Snakes are usually larger and stronger, so the mongoose needs to exhaust the opponent first. A mongoose runs around the snake and forces it to assault. At the same time, it probes the snake, assessing its weaknesses and looking for vulnerabilities. After finding them, the mongoose needs only one moment. The snake misses, the mongoose counterattacks and bites into the reptile's neck while simultaneously blocking the crawler's lower jaw. After that, the animal drags the snake into a thicket for dinner. Dinner can be a mamba, a cobra, or a viper. Only in rare cases a snake manages to defeat a mongoose. Most often it happens with inexperienced and young animals. The smartest snakes know about mongooses, fear, and try not to get into a battle with them. The crawlers would rather admit defeat and creep away than fight such a super strong opponent. By the way, even if a venomous snake bites a mongoose, it's too early to celebrate victory. Mongooses are immune to the venoms of many snakes, all because of a special cell structure. That's why mongooses are not susceptible to the bites of most very toxic snakes. Their venom simply doesn't achieve the effect. It's not only the mongoose who doesn't care about the opponent's venom. Another invulnerable animal is the honey badger, the legendary African badger and the main bully of the mainland. It isn't afraid of anyone at all, but everyone hid themselves away from it. And those who aren't frightened and survive are unlikely to mess with this creature in the future. As far as snakes go, the honey badger is in some ways even cooler than the mongoose. Maybe it's not so agile and fast, however it's not afraid of engaging in battle even with pythons. And sometimes the badger beats them. Given the animal's modest size, it's much easier to fight with smaller snakes. The mongoose relies on its thick skin, sharp claws and teeth, while the mongoose's style is more defensive and designed to wear down the opponent. The honey badger style is aggressive. The animal lunges at the snake, bites it, and fearlessly takes the bites. The honey badger has a protein that breaks down neurotoxins and anticoagulants, so the poisoned animal will not die. It'll pass out for a couple of minutes, or hours at worst, then regain consciousness and continue to defeat the snake. But that doesn't happen very often. I mean that a snake has to try hard to poison a honey badger. The thing is that the badger's skin is so thick and tough that even sharp teeth of snakes cannot always pierce it. Snakes are good at coping with prey on land. That's why all land creatures should be careful. Those who fly high in the sky are not afraid of snakes, especially if they're eagles. Magnificent birds of prey easily defeat hares and rodents, can lift a fox into the air, or knock out a wolf and, on occasion, eat snakes. Eagles have much better eyesight than snakes. That means they'll spot the crawler first. An eagle soars above the snake, swoops down and instantly grabs it. At times, the snake doesn't have time to realize anything. The eagle can restrain the snake to the extent that it won't escape and then starts eating it alive. Or the bird can share the prey with the family, dragging the crawler to the nest. Or it can eat the prey itself in the nest. Eagles are also cool because even sea snakes are afraid of them. No mongoose or honey badger can defeat a sea snake simply because it won't jump into the water. The eagle, on the other hand, flies to the surface of the water, grabs the reptile, and flies back to land with it. The appearance of these creatures is deceptive. Storks look graceful. They have long legs and beaks. They're tall and generally look like some feathered aristocrats. But behind this appearance hides a creepy essence. In fact, storks are ruthless and very strong birds. Their strength is majorly explained by the fact that they simply throw weak and sick chicks out of the nest without a single shred of guilt, possibly in order not to spoil the gene pool. As a result, a bird capable of dealing with many snakes, including poisonous ones, grows up in the future. Storks, especially like vipers, it's a great snack for them. Usually storks first walk around and assess the area if there's prey. If it turns out to be a snake, the bird quickly runs up and grabs it. If the stork's very hungry, it can easily swallow the snake alive and whole. And if it's not, or wants to share the prey with other storks, it drags it to the nest. In stork habitats, it's not uncommon to see stork chicks eating small snakes in their nests, apparently getting used to their future diet. As a rule, all the snake opponents cope with them with the help of their beak, teeth, or claws. In principle, almost all animals do this. But there is one bird that has a special tactic. It's a secretary bird, and snakes are very afraid of it. These birds are similar to storks but with a short beak. Unlike other birds of prey that hunt from the air, secretaries spend most of their time on the ground, where they can move relatively quickly. This is manifested in hunting snakes. These birds kick with their legs with all their might. Usually, the secretary opens one wing and uses it as a shield. At the same time, it literally tramples the snake into the ground with strong leg blows. If the snake defends itself, the secretary skillfully evades the bites and attacks again. The snake cannot hide from such a fan of kicking, so the feathered finishes off the crawler quickly enough. What's interesting, people often train secretary birds for battles against snakes. For this purpose, rubber snakes are used. The secretaries practice their low kicks on them. It looks unusual and even funny. Anyway, the real snakes won't be in a playful mood then. You don't have to be big to subdue and defeat a snake. It's not just huge eagles or long-legged secretary birds that can do it. Even a spider can. Interestingly, it isn't only about the largest and record-breaking arthropods. Even small spiders are quite capable of making a snake their prey. Yes, of course, they do not hunt for huge king cobras or anacondas. They attack just small snakes up to 25 centimeters long. Anyway, it looks impressive. Especially for snakes, spiders weave a very strong web that reaches the ground. An unsuspecting snake stumbles into the web and can't get out. Imagine the spider web is so good that it reliably catches and restrains not only all sorts of flies, but even such serious opponents. When a snake is trapped, the spider can wait until it's exhausted or poison and paralyze it. Digestive enzymes in the spider's bite liquefy the soft parts of the snake, and the arthropod can eat it. One crawler may be enough for several days or even weeks. Don't underestimate the animal the whole style of kung fu is named after. Mantises are not just any ordinary insects, known only for the fact that their heads are bitten off after mating. They're also very good predators with many skills. These skills are enough for them to stand up even to snakes. Yes, those small or even tiny. But still, if the mantis were larger, it would have gone into battle with a king cobra. Which style's better, the snake style or the one of the mantis? Of course, everything depends on the situation. Snakes also defeat mantises, but there are also opposite cases. Mantises use their paws in battle. They try to get on top of the snake and hold its head with their paws. Insects do not waste time in vain. They're not spiders to wait until the prey is tired or languished. They immediately get down to business and begin to eat the snake alive. If the mantis starts hunting hungry, it stands a better chance of victory. I think a lot of people underestimate the skill of cats. These fluffy cats can not only chase birds or catch mice, they're quite capable of defeating even a snake. The master of this is the sand cat. This is a wild cat living in the desert. There he hunts many snakes, but his main target is usually an adder. Despite the fact that the cat is not big at all, it's fearless in dealing with the enemy, and this is impressive. Even more impressive is how domestic cats manage to do it. Cats have phenomenal reactions. Even if the mongooses looked at them, they'd say, "That's pretty cool." Even at close range, a snake is not always able to hit a cat. However, the furry predator, on the contrary, can quickly stun the snake with a paw. In general, domestic cats hunt snakes not to feed on them. For them, it's rather a sporting interest in dangerous games. Cats are not stupid and realize the danger of snakes. A cat will start hunting the crawler, only being sure it can overpower the opposer. It'll hunt it really and seriously. That's why cats do not often hunt dangerous and very poisonous snakes. It's extremely difficult to defeat them. The snakes don't really like to mess with these big guys. The situation's about the same with the honey badger. Snakes cannot easily penetrate the thick skin of boars and pigs, while these animals themselves can easily trample the snake and even eat it. Besides, even if a snake bites a pig, it's not a fact the poison will spread through its body. The pigs and boars have a dense layer of subcutaneous fat. It'll trap toxins and neutralize them, at least partially. As for eating poisonous snakes, everything's not so clear. Boars and pigs don't have the same immunity to the toxins of the crawlers as honey badgers or mongooses. However, the venom of snakes doesn't affect them in full force. For this reason, boars often eat snakes, and pigs often kill them in their enclosures, where they crawl in to attack piglets. Snakes and these reptiles are known to be longtime enemies. This is especially true for the alligators. In South America, they're often attacked by anacondas, and in North America and Asia by giant pythons. Giant snakes skillfully wrap around alligators, squeeze them with their monstrously strong rings, break the enemy, and then eat completely. But the toothy monsters can take revenge, at least on their smaller relatives. Crocodiles and alligators rarely eat snakes. They have enough of other prey. Anyway, if necessary, they can catch a snake at their favorite body of water. Crocodiles make a very sharp attack, so that even a skittish snake cannot always dodge these toothy jaws. And then it's a matter of technique. Alligators and crocodiles have a good technique, so the snake ends up in their stomachs. Back to the birds. Snakes have enough enemies in the sky, and eagles and storks are not their only opponents. They're also threatened by the great horned owl. It's an American bird of prey that often hunts snakes. That's why they're afraid of it. Unlike the eagle that uses its strength and eyesight, owls rely primarily on silence. Owls are in principle famous for their stealth skills. They often fly close to the snake, and the snake will not notice them, or will notice them only at the last moment. However, it'll be too late for the crawler. The owl will eat it itself or take it to the nest with the chicks. These birds are famous for their intelligence. That means they're automatically stronger than a snake. In general, crows feed on insects, rodents, frogs, and lizards. But recently, people have noticed them attacking snakes more and more often. A crow can either just pester and annoy the snake or fight against it in a serious way. This smart bird knows all the weaknesses of the snake, understands how to fight, and therefore very often comes out victor from such battles with ease. Snakes are better not to face crows. It's believed that in an area where there are many hedgehogs, you're not likely to meet a snake, and vice versa. Where there's no hedgehogs, snakes thrive. So the snakes are afraid of hedgehogs, are they? That's right. Despite the fact that these animals look cute, they're not as simple and kind as they seem. Hedgehogs are ruthless with insects, worms, and slugs, but if they get a chance, they'll also eat a snake. A snake has literally no chance against a hedgehog. Its entire body is armored. That's not only strong, but also very sharp. In order to attack, it needs to make a jerk. Anyway, it'll only bump into the sharp needles and get hurt. Sometimes hedgehogs don't even have to do anything. The snakes do all the work for them, injure themselves, run out of breath, and the barbs eat them. The same can be said for porcupines, except that they don't eat snakes as they're vegetarians. A snake can try to attack a porcupine, but it's unlikely to be able to penetrate those giant barbs. It's more likely to get mauled. Then the snakes might take a desperate step and swallow the porcupine whole. Pythons are some of the most frightening snakes in the entire world, as they swallow their prey without even chewing it up. It may seem that they're just feeding on something small, but that's not the case. The slithering creatures can eat prey 10 times larger than themselves. In this story, for example, a crocodile caught the eye of a snake. As the locals say, the animal fight lasted for several hours before the large predator was defeated by a small but still agile snake. The python was lucky that the fight took place away from the swamp. The snake is not venomous, which means that the only way to win was a signature chokehold. Most likely, crocodile fatigue became the key to the opponent's victory. The snake defeated the enemy and began to eat it. I bet people far from the world of snakes wouldn't believe their eyes in this moment. How did such a small creature swallow an entire crocodile? You'd be surprised, but these snakes can swallow even larger animals. Well, let's not disturb the python. Let it enjoy the victory. Look, it's already trying to crawl away to a safe place with its heavy burden so that it can calmly begin to digest it. Spoiler alert, this process, in this case, can take about a week and sometimes even longer. Has anyone seen my tongs? That's probably what the man in this story, who lost his barbecue tongs one ordinary day, said. And no, the man wasn't going to cook a kebab. He's a vegetarian. He used the tongs to feed his pet python. Apparently, he should rethink the animal's menu. The snake is clearly undernourished. I mean, why else would the snake swallow this tool? The predatory snake clung to the tongs when the owner kindly shared with her another portion of the delicacy in the form of mice. It was not possible to pull them out of her strong teeth, so the man simply left the tool inside. He thought the snake just wanted to play with the tongs, but nothing more than that. The man left Rose, that's the snake's name, and when he returned he was at a loss for words. The feeding tool was gone. It didn't take long to figure out where the tongs had gone. The shape of the snake had strangely changed, and the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. Concerned about Rose's health, he immediately took her out of the cage and took her to the nearest veterinary clinic, where the vets first took an x-ray and then performed the surgery. Although the snake periodically regurgitated food, because of the sharpness of the tongs, there was no chance that they'd fly out just like that. The vets made a precise incision that did not damage the organs and saved the overly curious Rose. People come to vets all the time with all sorts of problems, and that tongs problem was far from unique. For example, these people came to the vets because a snake had swallowed their doorknob. This gray rat snake, amazingly enough, had been brought in by complete strangers to the snake. They said they noticed the snake near their chicken coop. The snake wanted to catch the livestock but ended up becoming prey itself. To get the snake out of here, the locals put a doorknob as a fake egg. But unfortunately, no one thought that this could have bad consequences. The reptiles swallowed the doorknob without blinking an eye, after which people realized that they'd done a terrible thing. As x-rays showed, the snake needed stomach surgery. Fortunately, everything was successful. The gray rat snake was unharmed and returned to its native environment, where it will be able to continue catching rodents. I just wish that there will be fewer doorknobs and other inedible stuff on its way. Tennis ball. A doorknob, no matter how you look at it, can be quite tiny. Tongs, too, although long, are quite small in terms of width. A tennis ball, on the other hand, is what's really impressive. Several people arrived at the Australian Veterinary Center, breathing heavily and bringing the injured snake with them. It's unknown how and where, but the snake swallowed a whole tennis ball. Not only could it not be absorbed and digested by its body, the ball also did not allow it to breathe normally. Because of this, there was little time to save the snake. The vets took an x-ray, prepared everything necessary, and successfully pulled the ball out. Even no surgery was required. Where do you think the snake could have found that ball? Was it so hungry that it ate it without even sniffing it? And again, Australia. And again, the help of vets. This time the situation is more understandable, but certainly no less strange. People came to the vets with a python that swallowed a beach towel. The python was theirs, just like the towel. Previously, the snake had never done anything like this and didn't even show the slightest desire to do it. But then it pounced on the object made of fabric and devoured it in a matter of seconds. There was no time for people to interfere in any way, purely physically. Of course, such a long object also prevented the snake from breathing, so everyone was worried not about the lost thing but about the condition of their beloved pet. Luckily, the vets had a long enough endoscope and a dose of sedative to perform a successful surgery. That's it for today. What from this episode impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching.